Hello, everybody. Pop Culture Curator here. So good to see you all. It is Tuesday night, January 2nd, which means tonight we are covering on our horror sci-fi stream the movie from 1957, The Curse of Frankenstein. So this is going to be this week is we're going to be covering another Hammer movie. I know last time we did Dracula. So here's where we get the pairing of the great Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing together once again. And once again, Christopher Lee plays the monster. Ironically, Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, before this movie was made, they had played in a couple movies together, but not really together. So this will be the first time that they've actually played together in two prominent roles. When Hammer Studio offered the role of Frankenstein when they were looking for somebody, they just described they were calling around and saying that he wanted somebody big. So it was in between Christopher Lee and another gentleman. I pull up the name. And they asked the other guy, how much money do you want to play the role? And he said 10 pounds a day. And when they asked Christopher Lee, how much do you want? He said 8 pounds a day. So they figured, well, we'll save $2 and we'll hire Christopher Lee. And well, because of that, he's an international star. And I can't even remember the name of the other guy, so I'll put it that way. So I guess that was a smart move on Hammer's behalf. Because at the time, Christopher Lee wasn't really that well known of an actor. But I'm excited because I love the Hammer movies. And it's so great we're going to be covering this. We're going to be getting through this relatively quickly tonight. We're going to try out a new format where we're going to try to keep our streams relatively short because I know sometimes they tend to go on and on for 3 or 4 hours or more. But tonight we're going to try to see if we can get through this a little quicker, try to stay on topic. We won't be so much reading the dialogue. We'll give synopses of the scenes as we go through it. We will be acknowledging the chat, but we always acknowledge the chat because without them and without you guys, we wouldn't be here. So the first thing I want to do is say hello to my fellow panelists. Hello, Gorilla. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, and Pop doesn't know this yet, but we are going to be having a giveaway here in about half an hour. I'm going to be giving away a cat that is in heat there. So if you want a chance to win a cat that's in heat that won't shut up, here, just put a 1 in the chat and I'll add you to the wheel.
All right, the wheel of misfortune. It's funny because when dogs and cats go into heat, it's not just the male of the species that acts crazy, the females do too. So I know what that's like.
Oh, this one keeps just like sticking her butt in the air and her tail in the air and keep patting the chair and then like backing up there. And especially she likes to get around my feet and stuff. They're just trying to get my attention there. I was like, oh. Then it's like,
you should consider getting her fixed. If she gets
that's $100 I don't have.
Oh, okay. You sure that she's not going to get out and get pregnant?
Oh, she doesn't. She's scared of the outside.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. At least she doesn't have a litter that you have to worry about finding homes for.
Yeah.
And how are you doing, Nemesis of Eden, my good friend? How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well, Pop. Thank you for having me on. Good to be on here with you and Gorilla. I'm excited to try this new format out. And to anyone who hasn't already, please like and subscribe to Pop, Gorilla, and myself. It would be greatly appreciated. And with that ritual out of the way, do we want to get started with the film?
Appreciate that, Nemesis. Well, let's go ahead and cover the chat and see how far. Let's say hello to everybody.
Sounds good.
Then I'll get started. I know Suzanne Eckstein stopped by earlier and said, hello, Pop. I probably won't make the show tonight, but wishing you an awesome stream, guys. Hail the chat. Love you. So, Suzanne, wherever you're out there, I hope you're doing well. Sorry you're not able to stick around.
Yeah, hey there.
Yeah,
hello, Suzanne.
Says, hey, Pops, and hello, Lemon Pie. So good to see you.
Hey there, Scurvy.
Hey, Lemon.
And yes, Nemesis of Eden says lemon. And Lemon Pie says ambushed. Lemon Pie says, "Hey, Nemesis." And Edge of Time says, "Greetings from the Edge of Time. Good to see you, Edge of Time." And
Hello,
Lemon,
Edge Time.
yes, welcome, Edge of Time, says Lemon. Edge of Time says, "Thanks, Pie. Glad to be here." And Lemon Pie says, "Hey, Gorilla." And Lemon Pie says, "One, but if I win, give to PvP." There you go. That's a good one too. Yeah. Give me number 2 on the list, and if I win, give to PvP as well. And there he is, the really joking PvP. Beyond soon, just watching the last part of the film. Okay, sounds good. All right. Let me see here. I think I have everything queued up and ready to go. I tried not to waste too much time. Oh yeah, there is once again a poll in the chat. Everybody, if you'd like to vote on, give us your grade of what you think about this movie or our coverage of this movie, if you'd like. I actually did remember the poll this week, so I'm pleasantly happy for that. All right, here we go. And of course, once again, everybody, of course, there will be no audio because I don't want to get a copyright strike. And we'll be skipping through this every few seconds or so.
And Scurvy here says, "Speak of the picker there." And welcome, Phantom Boomer Explorers. Welcome, welcome.
Hey, Phantom.
Hello, Phantom Boomer. Good to see you. And Phantom. Oh, there it is. I don't know what's going on. I have a delay here with my player. Phantom Boomer. I don't know. We'll see if Jim comes in. I thought Jim was part of our stream group. I don't know if he is or if he isn't. But if not, I don't know. Maybe if he left it at one point. But I thought he was part of it. But if he's not part of it, I can add him again. Maybe I can try to do that tonight. Okay. We get our introduction here, Curse of Frankenstein, and fortunately, wonderful color. And by the way, when this movie came out, horror movies were on the downslide. They were kind of big in the 30s and 40s. That's when we got our American Universal versions of like Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman. But they were kind of on the downside. And I know I've mentioned this before, but at this point in Hollywood, a lot of movies were like B movies, black and white, and they were relegated to the drive-in and stuff like that. So this movie kind of helped reinvigorate the horror genre. So it's actually it's a very historic for what it did, and it actually helped put Hammer on the map, Hammer Films. And as timeline-wise, this movie came out a year before Dracula, which we covered last time on our last Hammer horror stream. Okay. And of course, back in the day, they used to show all the credits before the movie. I guess they were afraid you'd walk out of the theater before they showed the credits. And we started to get the introduction to our characters. And we have a prison cell.
Beautiful set design all throughout this movie.
Absolutely.
And we have the great Peter Cushing. Sorry, Bob.
Yes. Oh, no, it's fine. I'm going to point out a little bit of inconsistencies on aging in this movie here, I thought. But of course, he's in prison, and it starts out this similar to when we covered Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So it's like a wraparound segment. So it starts out with Baron Frankenstein in prison, and he starts explaining what happened. So we get like our movie is told like in a flashback sequence.
Yes, this whole movie is told hoping to a priest, hoping that he's going to convince everyone else of this crazy tale that we're about to witness. And now, unfortunately, we have here the young Victor von Frankenstein, who is now the Baron von Frankenstein.
Yes, and so so this boy here is Peter Cushing's character as a boy, and I thought the casting was pretty good. He looks kind of like him. The face structure is similar.
Yeah, they did well. And they're basically just establishing that he's the last of the line. He owns the house. He's got a lot of money.
And he's extremely smart, apparently. But of course, I don't. Now is not the time for my video player to start messing up what it's doing, and it's frozen, and it won't.
Oh, it's okay, buddy.
Okay, well, you're getting that unfroze. I'll get the chat caught up here.
So I got to stop it and start it over again. I apologize, guys.
All right. Boomer says,
"No.
Hello, Suzanne. How are you doing?" And then we're getting welcome, Jim's Landscaping. Welcome.
It's like your ears were burning. And hello, Jim. Hello, Suzanne. Good to see you guys.
Yeah. And Suzanne says, Phantom better still a couple weeks away from free and clear. And everybody's saying hi to each other. And he asks, do you have electricity now? Grilling me later about Thursday meeting. Okay, I will there, Jim. And it says, Phantom not yet. We'll have it cleared up by the 19th. Well, it's good to hear there, Suzanne. And Scurvy here says, it's all good, Pop. Yeah, I know how much of a pain these things can be. So I do directly from the site, too. Suzanne says, Pop, am I hearing Nemesis? Yes, you are.
Yes, Nemesis is here, thank goodness.
Nemesis is all juiced up on Canadian corn and Canadian ham from Xmas. That's why he got the drop on me.
Yes, totally. I know, it's because I finally digested all of that ham and corn, and now I was able to move properly.
I wasn't talking about Jim, was I?
No, we mentioned Jim earlier.
Yeah, this question is for Jim. Jim, are you part of our streaming group on Twitter? I thought you were. Venom Boomer was asking me to add you, but I thought you were already in there. Let me know if you are or not. And if not, I can re-add you. So here we're getting flashbacks, and of course they go rather quickly. But
it's not up.
Go ahead.
It's not up on the screen.
Oh, that's right. I had to quit the player and add it again. Thank you for reminding me.
Edge of Time says, now it's time to go through the door and find out what lays behind it. And Boomer here says, Jim is an old man. He has delusions. And as LOL Phantom. All right, we're all caught up on chat.
Thank you. So we get a short montage here of Baron Frankenstein growing up. And basically here he is studying and learning. And the man you see on his left is apparently his mentor. So what I thought was odd about this is the guy on the left is his mentor, and everything he's learning everything from the guy on the left, who later turns out to be his assistant. But what I thought was a little kind of obvious is the man on the left doesn't age. So it's funny because Peter Cushing's character, Baron Frankenstein, starts out as a little boy. He's staying with this guy, and he gets older and older. Next thing you know, I mean, it's to the point where Peter Cushing looks older than the other guy, and I thought that was kind of obvious, and it's kind of funny, but oh well, it's nitpicking. And some of you guys may recognize some of these props in Baron Frankenstein's lab. I want to see if anybody recognizes any of them. And there goes my player. There we go. My player every now and then keeps stopping.
Yeah. Is that big wheel in the back from the time machine?
Negative. If it helps, I want you guys to remember this movie was shot in England. So where I recognize some of the props was from another movie shot in England. And I'll give you a hint. The movie was 1975.
Okay.
So here's where he's experimenting with body parts. It starts out small.
Well, this isn't so much a body part as it is he's bringing a corpse of a puppy back to life.
Well, yes, that's right. Thank you. And
you're welcome.
One thing that's great about this is Peter Cushing was a stickler for accuracy. So when they filmed this, he wanted to make sure that all the props were accurate to the era. So what he has there in his hand is actually a stethoscope. So there we go. He holds it up to his ear because this is before we had stethoscopes like we know now, where the doctor's hanging around their neck. And what's interesting is Peter Cushing. We will see in the later movies because, like I said, he does several movies: The Horror of Frankenstein and Curse of Frankenstein and Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed and all those movies. But he works well with props.
Yeah.
So he ended up earning the nickname around the studio Prop Peter. Because, and also, like I said, because he was a stickler for accuracy. He wanted everything to look accurate to the era.
Yeah. And welcome, Spidey.
Hey, Spidey, good to see you. Hope you're doing well.
Hey, Canadian Spider-Man. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
Hope you had a good New Year, sir. And here's where they're at the point where they start robbing graves.
Hey, what was the guy's crime again that they hung him up there for and left it there for everybody to see as they entered through town?
He was a highwayman. He was a robber. He would hold people up on the road and rob them. Oh. And as a deterrent, they hung him up in the gibbet.
Which they used to actually do to people. And
yes.
By the way, it was a very, very good and effective deterrent. I wish they would bring it back.
Yeah. Now, isn't it ironic that the guy who was hung for robbing people got his body robbed?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's a poetic justice for that, for sure. And this is the start of the moral ambiguity for Victor's character here. Because, well, we started with a puppy, and they were successfully able to bring the puppy back to life. And that was a very riveting sequence. And now they're starting with robbing graves. Well, not so much a grave yet, but still taking a corpse and working with it. So
yes, it's
interesting to note.
Yeah, he's starting with like different body parts, and that's an acid bath. That when he has a failed experiment, he throws it in the acid.
Yeah, here we got quite a bit of chats here.
Thank you, Gorilla.
And Suzanne says, "Pop, I was able to make 300 today."
Oh, very cool! Congratulations, Suzanne. That's great.
Yeah. And Jim says, "Pop culture can't see your group."
Well, then I guess that means you're not in there. Okay, I'll make it a point of adding you. I'll probably do that after the stream tonight, if that's okay.
Yeah, and your Nemesis, you want to read chats here while I take some aspirin?
Yeah, dude, I got this. Edge of Time says, "Ye old municipal carnal house." The Phantom Boomer Explorer says, "Jim is 15 years older than I am." Canadian Spider-Man says, "Hello there at Pop Culture Curator and at Gorillas and, of course, Nemesis."
Happy New Year, Spidey.
All right, I'm back there. And
I'm still reading the chats.
Yeah.
Lemon Pie says, Canada Spider-Man. Canadian Spider-Man says, "Good to see you at Jim's Landscape LLC #1 Commodore Productions." And then more. Phantom Boomer says, "Hello to Spidey. Damn it, Jim." And Spidey says, "Hello and good evening to you at the Phantom Boomer Explorers." Jim's Landscape LLC #1 says, "Hail, Canadian Spider-Man." Suzanne says, "Canadian Spider-Man, hiya, Happy New Year." Edge of Time says, "How proper." Edge of Time says, "Hello to Spidey." Canadian Spider-Man says, "Doing friggin' fantastic, gentlemen. Thank you." Hey there, good to see you at Edge of Time. Suzanne says, drops a link. Canadian Spider-Man says, "That was before he joined the band." Gibbet. Yes, that is correct. Phantom Boomer Explorers. Be nice if I could get my hair brought back to life. Maybe not in this manner. Edge of Time says, "Body moving. The good doctor keeps a body moving."
That's right. And Jim, I just added you to the stream groups. You're now a member.
And we got the man of many words here, Cody Guy. Welcome.
Hey, Cody Guy. Hope you're doing well. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Cody Guy. Lemon Pie says this is a prequel to Star Wars: A New Hope, so this is Tarkin before then, right? So we have here one of my favorite actresses,
Yeah.
Valerie Gaunt.
Yeah, and Jim says,
Not-
damn it, Peter. All right, we're all caught up now.
And of course, once again, the women are absolutely beautiful in this movie.
Yes, they are.
Not afraid to show their femininity like they do. Like now, they would never do again. And what's interesting is here is as we go through these movies, like I said, this is the first Frankenstein movie with Peter Cushing, where he plays Baron Frankenstein. And as we go through them, you guys will see that. I mean, yeah, he's a bad guy in this because he's robbing graves, and his morals are questionable. But he actually gets much worse and much more evil as the movies progress. So there is an arc. Yeah, there is an arc to his character,
which I already like because, as we'll see in this movie, it's quite a character progression from watching the small, innocent but intelligent child go into the doctor that we know and love.
Yes.
So here we have what we didn't get to touch on that we skipped in earlier is his cousin. And now that's not his cousin. That is Valerie Gaunt playing the maid.
The maid, right.
He is currently having, well, multiple, I wouldn't say an affair because he's not married to anyone yet, but.
Back in the day, they called these people mistresses. For our younger viewers, this is what you call a side chick.
Yes, Gorilla, thank you. So, yes. Here we have an excellent scene of eyeballs being traded to Dr. Frankenstein.
Yeah, I love this. I'm not afraid to show the gore, so that's wonderful. So not for the squeamish, I suppose. Some of the things, especially for 1957, some of the things they show in this movie are rather shocking.
Oh, it's fantastic. And they allude to a lot more too. Like some of the scenes coming up that we will cover are going to be fantastic. But even just that with the prosthetics and whatnot. And this scene, this is probably one of my favorite characters, the professor.
Oh, yes. And what happens to him, I'd say, is one of my favorite scenes in all-time cinema.
Yeah.
It is so well done.
Yeah. Hey, welcome to the panel, PvP.
Yeah, I've been here for a few minutes.
Good to see you, PvP. Welcome.
Yeah, a little bit late. I didn't get a chance to watch it until I started watching it after I finished work today. Luckily, I got off a little bit earlier from work, so I had time to not miss too much of the stream, I guess, maybe 30 minutes or whatever. So, yeah, really good film.
So my question for all three of you is, was this the first time you've seen this before?
Yes.
Yep. Never saw it before.
Okay, good. How about you, Nemesis?
Say, well, I've never seen it before.
Okay. Oh, I can't wait.
Really enjoyed this one. Really, really good movie.
So basically what happens is Baron Frankenstein is assembling the body, I guess you could say, from various corpses. And now what he's looking for is a brain. Because obviously he doesn't want the brain. I mean, he's using the body of a criminal that we showed before that was hung. But he doesn't want the brain from that body, obviously. He doesn't want a criminal mind. So he invites the professor to his house because that's exactly what he's looking for when he comes to the... And I hope this doesn't screw up. Oh, I love it. Okay, now, I'm going to show this clip here because I love it so much, and I hope I don't get a copyright strike. But it's worth it.
Just
but it's old movies or not.
Right after it, make sure we're just talking about it right after. So
yes.
I would claim it's for the review if it does get claimed.
Yes, thank you. And the editing is magnificent. So what's going on is with the distraction is Baron Frankenstein is showing the professor this painting on the wall. Oops, a little too far. And then what he does is he surprises the look out, professor, and watch this scene. Absolutely fantastic. Because I mean, if you look at that, it looks like a stuntman, but he did land on his head, so it had to be a dummy. So I'm not even sure if it was a. I mean, it looks like a man. It
You
looks
think
like a.
that doesn't look like a dummy to me.
That's what I was thinking too, and I even went back and rewinded it and watched it again. But it's magnificent because the way they showed him fall
It
from the
did
second
look,
floor to the
yeah,
first floor, and he did land on his head.
it sure looked like it to me. Yeah, maybe they had some kind of special floor that had some give in it, so he wouldn't like kill himself, like for real.
It's possible.
I bet you someone just made it was really good with the dummy, and they took extra time making it.
Sure doesn't look like a dummy, I gotta say. Even the way it fell, you can tell in a lot of those old movies when they throw a dummy out the window, right? And it looks totally fake, like totally doesn't look like a person at all. But this, when he goes out through the railing, it's like, geez, that's got it. That looks like a real guy to me, but I don't know.
Well, a lot of reasons why is because back in the days, it was just like a dummy stuffed with material or cotton. They weren't usually articulate,
Yeah.
but as dummies advanced, like by the time we got to Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones, and all that stuff, they actually built like a skeleton armature inside the dummies, so that when they threw them off a bridge or whatever, it looked like they at least looked like people. But that looks like a man. I mean, it looks like it.
Well, the thing is, too, this is 1957, right? So, what are the chances that dummies, dummy science had gotten that complex by that year?
Very slim, very slim, and that's what I like about it because it's so well done. I still can't tell how they did it. Usually, for a movie from 1957, you can pretty much point out instantly how it's done.
Yeah, you think so, but maybe they just had a really talented stuntman that could land on his head and not break his neck or something. I don't know.
Very possible. And one thing I want to point out too, what I like about this scene is here we are. He's in a crypt. Once again, now here's what he is. Okay, they buried the professor, so now he's basically robbing the professor's body. But if you're watching the movie, what you'll notice is that he actually has vapor coming out of his mouth, so it's actually cold, which is believable, like a crypt would be. It would be because obviously this is before the days where they had CGI vapor coming out of the mouth, which they have now, and it looks really fake.
What I like is the realism, yeah, because I remember at the opening of the film that where there was the horse when someone rode up on the horse, and the horse, you could see the horse's breath as well in that first early sequence.
Yes.
So it was like, wow, they really went all out, to get the details in this film.
Exactly.
Hey, Boomer here says International Charnel House of Pancakes and Bacon.
Remind me never to eat there, because I'm sure I don't want to try the sausage at that place. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, and Jim here says Boomer is not in your group.
I think he was in the group. I don't know what happened. I don't know what's going on. Are you guys leaving the group? Because I know Boomer was in the group.
Oh, that's weird.
And Boomer
I
says
muted the group a long time ago because of all the random bullshit.
I've been in the group.
Yeah, I know, but it happens. Yeah, I was afraid of that. Sometimes when people start posting multiple posts in the group, people start muting it, and I was afraid that was going to happen. That's why I usually ask people when they post to try to just post once, not to do multiple posts. If you're going to have a conversation with somebody, try to message them directly. But yeah, I lost a lot of people from the group because they got tired of the alerts going off. I almost turned mine off a few times, but I had to keep forcing myself to keep the alerts on because I'm the moderator of the group.
And Boomer here says maybe I was blipped. I had to recreate a couple 3 DMs recently.
Well, let me know if you're part of the group or if you want to be added.
Yeah. And Suzanne then says, Scurvy, can you drop my link, please? It's not moving. And Boomer here says, I know some articulate dummies.
Yeah, I know, right?
And here is Suzanne's link for Give Send Go. If you can help her out, please.
Please do, everybody. Suzanne's a very sweet person, and she could use some help.
And
She's a single grandmother raising her grandson.
Yeah, and Suzanne says, Scurvy, thanks. And then Edge of Time says, I like to articulate dummies. And Scurvy said, did PvP post too much
No,
porn on it?
no, I did not. Okay, that's taking the jokes a little too far because I do not post prawn on anything.
Okay, if there's anybody in the chat listening, and if you're not part of the streaming group and you want to be, let me know and I'll add you. I did add Jim. If there's anybody else, let me know because I have it pulled up on my phone right now and I can add anybody else if you're not already there. Okay, so, and here's another thing which is interesting, of course, and very, very old fashioned, and I got to admit it's very sexist. But basically, this guy here is telling her that, you can't trust Baron Frankenstein. He's doing some crazy stuff. Maybe we should get out of here. But he won't tell her what. And that's what I thought. The whole movie, he will not tell her what's going on. And even when it gets to where it really gets deep into the bad stuff of what's going on, he won't tell her. And she doesn't say, tell me what's going on. So I guess the belief was back then, well, you want to spare her because she's a lady. So you want to spare her from such horrific details.
Seemed like it, yeah.
Hey, PvP Scurvier is apologizing.
No, I'm not really upset. It's just sometimes people do, say things a little bit over the line, but it's okay, Lemon. It's no big deal. And I'm really not upset. I just, sometimes I just mention it's like, well, because sometimes people will read this shit and they'll take it for real, right? And it's like, I don't want some stranger coming on here like 2 months from now and watching this and reading the chat and going, oh, that PvP guy sounds like he's really, bad news or whatever. It's like, no. That's not what I'm about. But oh well.
Hey,
That's what I'm about, but I don't post it to other stuff.
Well, I just want to set the record straight,
I'm looking now, and it looks like Phantom Boomer is not part of the group. So I don't know if he left at some point, but Phantom Boomer, if you want to be added, let me know. I can add you right now that I had this pulled up. Douglas Oberg is not part of the group. Suzanne Eckstein is not part of the group. So if I say your name and if you want to be added, let me know. Cam, Basil Battle Dragon, Scotty. I believe that's it. That's most of the names from everybody that's usually coming in here. So if I mentioned your name and if you want to be added to the group, please say so. So here's what I was talking about in this scene here. I know somebody's got to recognize that prop of that tank that has Frankenstein, the experiment wrapped in bandages in it. Does anybody recognize that tank?
Not.
I'm ashamed to say no.
No, I don't remember that one.
Well, not only that, then that means you guys have not seen the movie that I'm talking about. But what else should jar your memory is also the body wrapped in bandages. So these props are all from this is 1957, and these props are later used in the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I've never seen it, bud.
Yeah, I've seen it, but geez, I don't remember these props at all. But I haven't watched it in probably 15 years, so
Yeah, when Frankenfurter is bringing Rocky to life, he's in the same kind of tank like that.
Okay.
In fact, the same one.
Huh. Well, that's cool. So I mean, this was made in England, and was Rocky Horror made in the U.S.?
And it was Rocky Horror was shot in England.
England,
English
okay,
production.
Okay, that makes sense then that they reused the props. Okay, I was just wondering.
Yeah, we do. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, in America, when they made a Frankenstein movie, they usually reuse the props from the original James Whale Frankenstein movie with Boris Karloff. So when we saw which we need to eventually show here on this stream, that original Frankenstein from 1933, they use those props over and over, and they eventually even showed up in Young Frankenstein from 1974. Sorry, go ahead, Gorilla.
Boomer here says, I would like to be back in, and I promise not to post porn. I'll just DM to PvP instead.
All right,
not necessary. If I want to look for porn, I can probably find it on my own quite easily.
Okay, Boomer, you're now in the group.
Looks like the Fluke Man in the tank. In that tank.
Gotta love all these contraptions that they built for this, though. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Talk about elaborate gadgets, eh?
Yeah, and Jim
Yeah, I
says
love
pop
it.
culture. Could Scotty be in your group?
Yeah, tell him that if you guys know where he's at, let me know. He was in there at one point, but people, like I said, they leave, and when they do, I don't know. So I don't know if he had a reason why he wanted to leave. But if he wants to be added, all he's got to do is let me know, and I can add him again.
All right, we're all caught up.
Another thing too, I want to mention before I forget, is sometimes people will have a spat. So if I have, let's say that there's two people in the group and they're having a disagreement. If one of them blocks the other, the one that gets blocked, that automatically removes them from my group. So there's a lot of circumstances that are beyond my control that people leaving the group. So it could be because somebody blocked them out of animosity because they're, I don't know, some skirmish is going on, or because maybe that they left. I don't know. But yeah, anytime, just let me know and I can always add you guys again. It happens.
Yeah, and Suzanne wants to be added.
Suzanne wants to be added. All right, let me do that. Now, if I remember right, Suzanne should be badass grandma. All right, Suzanne, you are now
one
in
of the
group.
things that we didn't get to cover was the removal of the brain and how it was damaged, and how that's going to play an important part.
I know. I feel terrible. I missed that whole scene.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. I was thinking about. Thank you for reminding me, Nemesis. So what happened was the professor. He wanted the professor's brain, obviously, because he knew the professor was extremely intelligent. But number one, when he pushed the professor off that balcony, he landed on his head. And then later on, when he's robbing the grave and he pulls the brain out, he's struggling with his assistant, and they accidentally smashed the brain against the side of the wall. So it's almost like humor.
It wasn't.
No, it wasn't an accident.
It wasn't an
Go ahead,
accident.
PvP.
Well, his assistant. What's the assistant's name? I'm blanking
Paul.
out here. Paul was against these experiments from quite early on in the film, long before that brain scene, and he was like, "No, this is wrong." You know, and he basically grabbed Frankenstein and grabbed the brain jar and smashed it against the wall, so Frankenstein could not use it because he thought what Frankenstein's doing at this point is very, very evil.
Right, it's very abhorrent. So he's sabotaging the experiments.
Yeah.
Yes.
I liked how they did this in the movie. Instead, in the book, there he just had a brain he had labeled abnormal, meaning that the person was, mentally deficient, and instead this one they damaged the brain instead.
I don't know if abnormal was in these earlier movies. That may have been introduced for the comedy Young Frankenstein.
Well, that's in the book.
Okay. You could be right. And I do hope to show Young Frankenstein one of these days. I know it's a comedy, but I'd say it falls under horror loosely.
It's a very good film anyway, so,
Right. When Mel Brooks used to make good movies.
Yeah.
So those two, while Frankenstein and his assistant are out arguing and talking, what happens is the power flips on and everything comes to life, all the equipment, and it looks like this tank is releasing the water, like we saw earlier with the dog that he brought back to life.
You know what I wonder about though, Pop, is just before this scene, where the tank is emptying and all this stuff, isn't Victor basically pleading with Paul to help him? Because doesn't he say something like, "Without your help, I can't do it. I need you. I need you to help me with this." And yet the machine is doing it without anybody even in the lab at this point.
Right. There's apparently a surge of electricity because it's an electrical storm, which causes the equipment to accidentally turn itself on.
Kind of puzzled me a bit, though. That sequence.
Yeah. Hey, welcome, Taylor Swift.
Hello, Taylor Swift. Good to see you.
Hey, Taylor Swift.
Hello, Taylor. Yeah, you're correct, PvP. The machine is designed for two people, and yeah, I'm not sure if Maybe that also contributes to why the monster is as defective as it is.
That's a good point, actually, Nemesis. I didn't think of that, but maybe that could be something to do with it, actually. Yeah.
So Baron Frankenstein heads back to the lab, and he even agrees with his assistant. Yes, I'll destroy the body. But he goes down, he hears a noise, and this is where he realizes that the creature is actually awake. And we get the reveal. I'm glad they don't waste any time on the reveal.
Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of surprised they did it so quickly. So it's just like, oh, Christopher Lee just peels those bandages off, and we see how hideously grotesque he actually is. I mean, it's like half his flesh is rotting or something, right? When we see the reveal on him, it's gross.
But it's really good makeup.
Yes.
I'm sorry, my player is like stalling, and it's like a pain. But okay, anybody who knows what Frankenstein looked like, the Universal one with Boris Karloff, where he had the bolt on the lightning, the bolt on his neck,
Yep.
the lightning bolt on his forehead, the flat top head. Okay, that is a copyright and patented by Universal Studios.
Oh.
So that's the reason why they're not allowed to have this Frankenstein look like that Frankenstein, or they would have gotten sued by Universal. So that's the reason why we get a different design Frankenstein in this movie. And
I
there he
think it
is.
works. I think it works great, though. I mean, because I always thought of Frankenstein, like the monster, as being like a monster, right? Like I'm not. I don't have any issue with him looking this grotesque because, I mean, let's face it, he's been pieced together by various body parts, and in a tank for God knows how long before he gets revived, and it's like, well, no wonder he's looking pretty bad, right?
Yes.
So I find this more realistic than the Universal version, because I always thought, the Universal version, the monster really didn't look all that bad. I mean, sure, he had neck bolts, and he wasn't, he wouldn't go to the, out in a date probably, but he didn't look that hideous, right? As compared to Christopher Lee's version in this film. And Christopher Lee, he looks awful. Like he just really looks bad.
Well, it's a true. It just shows how it's devolved from his whole. Victor's original principle was to create almost like the perfect being. He had the hands of what was it? The hands of a sculptor. He had the brain of the professor. He had to settle with getting the body of a thug, but and now it's devolved ultimately into this.
Yes.
Yes.
And he's never once during the film considered the creatures as a living thing. He's like, yes, I've created and given it life, but it's not a conscious being type of thing.
Right. In fact, they always refer to it as it. They don't refer to it as him, as he or him. It's it.
That's the thing. Like by this point in the film, I was thinking, well, you've reanimated, an assemblage of corpses, but is that actually life? Is this thing actually living in any sense of what we would consider to be life? I do not think so, personally. It's horrific, I feel more sorry for the creature than I do for Frankenstein himself at this point.
Well, that's the same as the original movie. It was a tragedy, and the creature was misunderstood.
That's right. It was sympathy for the monster. It was a sympathetic villain, I should say, is the term it's used.
And for anybody who's seen the original, this is a slight twist in on how that movie played out. I don't know if you guys saw the original.
I did. Yeah.
Okay, so if you remember in the original, Frankenstein stumbles across the little house with the blind man inside.
Right.
And then after that, he meets a little girl next to the lake.
Yep.
So here we get the blind man, and instead of a little girl, a little boy. So they kind of put those scenes together in this one.
Wasn't the original film, the Universal film, when Frankenstein went in to the blind man's cottage? Did he not? I don't think he harmed the blind man in that film, did he? If I remember correctly. Yeah. So this was quite a twist for him to do. I don't know if he actually killed the blind man or if he injured him severely, but
no, he didn't. He did not. He just left because in the original movie, the only time you ever heard anybody is when he was antagonized or trapped like an animal.
Right.
Well, he did kill the little girl down by the lake.
Only, yeah, but because he thought he was playing, she was throwing flowers in the water, and they ran out of flowers, and he didn't know that, so he picked her up and threw her in the water.
So he thought
Oh.
that was like something fine to do because she was throwing the flowers. Yeah.
Because she was throwing the flowers.
Interesting.
So it
In
kind of
fact,
makes sense
right,
in his twisted mind, I
Right.
guess.
And I don't know if you guys are aware, but Boris Karloff insisted on that scene being cut out where he throws the girl in the water.
Hmm.
So for decades, many, many decades, all we saw was him looking at when they throw the last flower in the water. Then it shows Frankenstein look at the flower, and then he looks at the girl, and then it cuts to after she's already dead. Because
Yeah,
Boris
and the
Karloff
rippling in the water.
insisted
I'm sorry.
Right. Yes, the rippling of the water.
Huh.
So that was because of Boris Karloff insisting on that scene be removed. He thought it was too graphic. But it wasn't until I believe like the 80s or 90s they finally restored it.
Hmm.
So now if you watch a current copy of Frankenstein, we do see the scene where he throws a little girl in the water.
See, and I never got to see that scene. I only ever got to see him look at the little girl, and
Really?
then it cuts to the ripples in the water. So I always had the implication that he just like killed the little girl immediately. I was just like, oh Jesus.
Nope, he did it because of he basically had a mentality of a child.
Okay. Oh, I mean, that's
the thing is, censoring
Speaking-
it like that actually makes the scene even worse in a way, because if you see him just toss the girl into the lake, it's like he is like a child and he doesn't realize he's doing something, bad, right? In his mind, he's just playing, right? But if
Yes.
you cut all that out and you just go from him looking at the girl and then you see the bubbles in the lake or whatever when she's drowned, that makes it kind of even more nasty in a way, because you think, oh, what did he do? Grab her by the neck and strangle her and then throw her in the lake? Yeah, like your mind goes, crazy thinking about what actually happened when you don't see it, right?
Guys,
I guess
there's-
go ahead, Gorilla.
Have a good night, Suzanne.
Oh, good night, Suzanne. Have a good
Bye-bye,
sleep.
Suzanne. Take care.
Good night.
Good night, Suzanne. Thanks for being here. Yeah, and I mean, that's why I really like this scene. Like, this is one of the few scenes in the movie that I was on the seat of my on the edge of my seat type of thing, right? Like, it's really well done. Christopher Lee does a fantastic job, and not only that, but the actor who does the old man, and I'm blanking on his name right now.
I don't know if he's
But,
anybody famous. I can look it up.
No,
Yeah.
he's not. But
I didn't.
or
I didn't-
he might be, but as far as I know, no.
I don't recognize him at all. But he was really good. Good performance in this sequence, though, for sure.
Yes.
And I wanted to mention here, for many years, this held the distinction of being the most profitable movie to be produced in England by a British studio.
Really?
So that's what I meant by how this was what really helped put Hammer on the map.
Cool.
This was also the first Frankenstein movie filmed in color. From November 1956 to January 3rd, 1957 was the production time. The painting on the staircase shown to Professor Bernstein is a Rembrandt from 1632, The Anatomy Lesson of Dr. Nicholas Tulp.
Oh, that's hilarious, actually. Anatomy lesson. That's perfect for this movie, isn't it?
Yes.
That's
Christopher
funny.
Lee's monster makeup was almost literally done at the last minute.
Really?
After previous attempts to design a monster makeup using a cast of Lee's head had failed, makeup artist Philip Leakey made the final design the day before shooting began, directly onto Lee's face using primarily cotton and other household materials. Since he didn't use any latex or molds, the makeup had to be recreated from scratch every day.
Wow.
Hey, can we catch up on chats here?
Yes, thank you, Gorilla.
Scurvy here says bats are common on YouTube. They're
Yes, that they are, unfortunately.
And PvP can just message me for pictures, lol, says Suzanne. And Boomer here says bats are more attractive than on shoes. And can you read these, Nemesis?
I mean, no.
All right.
Give me a second. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Lemon Pie says, let's drop that joke. It's bugging PvP. Lemon Pie says yes to keep up with the who is beefing with who takes an effort some days. Suzanne says my boy named me Badass Grandma on Twitter. Phantom Boomer says Frank Ornstein. Taylor Swift has a bunch of bagels. Lemon says hello to Swift. Taylor says hello back. Everyone's saying hello. Check out Scogly's channel. Lemon says that character has on a smoking jacket, I think. Lemon says he's supposed to be a bit grotesque if it's going to be as in the book. Correct. Edge of Time says it's life, Jim, but not as we know it. Suzanne says, okay, fellas, time for me to go. Have a great stream. Thumbs up. Bye, Suzanne. Edge says, I've never read Frankenstein. I hear it drips with Illuminati.
That's odd.
Yeah, Lemon says goodbye. People are saying goodbye. Stream Elements says, check out PvP's channel. And that's it.
I wanted to mention, like I said previously, Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing before this movie had been in productions together, but never actually met professionally.
Oh.
So a behind-the-scenes note also is Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing's friendship was sparked when Lee stormed into Cushing's dressing room, complaining, saying, "I've got no lines." Cushing kindly responded, "You're lucky. I've read the script."
Oh, ouch. I didn't think, is he referring to this film? Gee, I didn't think the script was that bad. Gosh.
I know, but at first, because here's what happened is, and the similar, I remember reading about Vincent Price. When they first delved into horror, they thought the scripts were bad. But when they started realizing that the fans really embraced them in their horror roles, that's when they started loving them all the more.
Yeah, I think the script in this was quite good. I mean, I thought most of the dialogue was enjoyable. Maybe it could have been that Cushing was making a joke with Christopher, just like not being totally serious about the dialogue, being bad. Maybe he was just saying that to get a laugh out of Christopher Lee, I'm guessing, perhaps.
Yes. Although they had both appeared in Hamlet from 1948, Moulin Rouge from 1952, and Alexander the Great from 1956, Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing met on the set of this film for the very first time.
Wow.
They would pass the time between shots by exchanging Looney Tunes phrases and quickly developed a fast friendship, which lasted until Cushing's death in 1994.
That's hilarious. Looney Tunes phrases. I love it. That's great.
I know you would think about it, right?
That's awesome. They both seem like pretty cool guys, though, I gotta say. So I can totally see that actually happening for sure.
I totally agree. And it's really incredible, the career. I mean, considering Lee lasted a lot longer after this. I mean, goodness, he was in Star Wars and Lord of the Rings.
Lee or Cushing?
Lee.
Oh, okay.
Well, Cushing obviously was in Star Wars as Grand Moff Tarkin.
Yeah.
But if you remember, Lee was in the unfortunate prequels as Dookie. And then he was also... Well, yeah.
Not
whatever.
Dookie.
I hated that name so damn.
That was a Green Day album, wasn't it?
I hated that name.
Okay.
That's what happens when George Lucas lets his grandkids name the characters.
Oh, yeah.
And he was also Lord of the Rings. Was it Sauron? Was that the name? I'm not a Lord of the Rings fan. But he was a wizard.
So there's Saruman and Sauron.
This is Saruman. Anyways, carrying on with this movie, though.
Yes, good plan.
So,
come on, player. I don't know what's going on with my player, but it just hangs up and it just.
Maybe you need to get rid of this copy and download a fresh copy or something, Pop. Just wondering,
Well, when I watched the movie, I had no problems with it, but for some reason, it's only when I'm doing this stream.
Huh. Well,
and I don't know why.
StreamYard takes up a lot of.
Yeah, could be StreamYard.
That's right, but I've got 32 megs of RAM, 32 gigs of RAM. You think that would be enough?
Well, the thing is, sometimes it works fine on some streams, right? Like I've noticed,
Yes,
it's only occasionally when it really, stalls like it, is tonight, right? So,
that's just it. And see, if I'd have known this was going to happen, I would have gotten a different copy.
mm,
Come. Ah.
yeah, that's frustrating.
Okay, where are we at? 5750. I'm gonna quit the player again. Bear with me, guys. Reboot it up.
No worries. I gotta say, I was amazed at this film how his helpmate Paul was so patient. I mean, obviously he knew what he was doing was horrific, and he did oppose him through the film, but still, even in this scene, he's actually going along, trying to do what he can to kind of rectify the problem that is occurring. So I think Paul was a very patient man. I gotta
Well, he
say.
was. Remember, he raised him from a child, and he was his mentor.
Yeah, but the sad thing is with Victor, he doesn't appreciate how Paul raised him when he was like, as a young teenager or whatever, right? And he doesn't
Correct.
appreciate all the things he did, all the education he gave him, because it talks early in the film about how Victor's being educated by this man for many, many years, right? Obviously, from like maybe a kid that's like 14 or 15 up into an adult, in the film, right? And it's just
Yes.
like he doesn't seem to give a crap about what a great guy Paul is, how much he's done for him in his life to help him, right?
I think it's part of his obsession with his work
True,
because
true.
he gets to where he doesn't care really about anybody around him, and especially Paul, because he's just obsessed with bringing the dead back to life.
Yeah, yeah.
So here's where we didn't get to see this, but Paul shoots Frankenstein, the monster, in the eye.
Yep.
There he is. So Paul shoots him in the eye because Frankenstein, remember, was spooked by the blind man and killed him. So they shoot him in the eye. He falls to the ground, and they bury him. So here's where we have later on, and it looks like Frankenstein is continuing his experiments, and it looks like he went back on his own and dug up the body.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious he only buried the body in the first place just to, kind of put Paul's mind at ease, so to speak, and get him out of the picture, right?
Exactly right. Which didn't last long because Paul immediately, only a few minutes later, he found out that he had dug up the body. Now here is where now remember, this is the maid that he was having an affair, I guess an affair, or he was kissing earlier.
Oh, he was doing more than kissing with her for quite a while, it seems, as far
Yes.
as I could gather.
Well, here's where she tells him that she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And he's actually a jerk at saying, well, of all people, why couldn't you blame it on somebody else in the village?
Yeah, he says you could blame it on anybody in the village or whatever. It's like, talk about a rude thing to say to somebody you've been making love to. It's like, that's nasty, dude.
Right. And of course, she says, well, I'll tell everybody what you're doing. And of course, he doesn't know exactly what she knows, so he keeps asking her, what do you know? What do you know?
It's funny. I think it's funny in all these movies. They always threaten the person before they actually alert anybody. So it's like, unless the person is really arrogant and full of themselves, you're gonna end up dead.
Yeah, I know it, right?
Yeah. This scene, it's like, lady, you're crazy because I mean, you think she would have learned by now. This dude locks himself in the laboratory like 80 or 90% of the time. He obviously doesn't give a damn. I mean, the romance is pretty much over, I would guess, at this point. And she's, thinking if she goes and threatens him to expose all his dirty little secrets, that it's going to end well. Like, no, probably not.
Right. So she decides to go snooping to try to dig up some more information about what's going on.
Mm.
So she heads down to his lab, and the door, coincidentally, happens to be unlocked.
Gee, I wonder why.
Right. Which is not becoming a Professor Frankenstein.
Exactly.
And of course, she's snooping around trying to figure out what's going on.
I feel really sorry for her character, though. She was a decent person. I didn't think she was a bad person at all. She was actually kind of sweet. She was actually in love with him, I think. And look what happens, when you fall in love with a scoundrel,
Pretty much, yeah. And here's where she runs across the creature, and
Oh,
the
horrible.
creature attacks her. And we didn't quite get to see it because of the slides, but that's when we found out that Baron Frankenstein had left the door unlocked intentionally. So once she walked inside, he pretty much closed the door behind her and locked it. And then that's when the monster killed her.
And you know what's really
Yep.
disturbing? While the monster was strangling the life out of her and she was screaming in terror, he's right outside the door listening to every second of it going on. And he just stands there like some automaton that doesn't give a crap about a woman he once made love to repeatedly. It's like and she was
There it
pregnant.
is,
So,
right? This is the
so
look on his face the look on his face while the creature is going after her, right?
hmm. And that's the point. I mean, he was evil before because he murdered the professor, and I thought, well, you're a murderer now, so you've gone past being a grave robber. You are actually a criminal now, like a serious criminal. And then when he murdered his ex-lover and her unborn baby, which was probably his child, and murdered, both of them, I thought he's gone way past evil. He's gone into like serial killer mode at this point, right?
Yeah, in fact, in real life, that's capital murder.
Oh yeah, premeditated. Yes.
Premeditated and capital, that's automatic death penalty.
Horrible. Like, yeah, horrible.
So here's where, and believe it or not, even with all the shenanigans of him going on with the maid, this is actually his fiance. So, right, he's stringing this lady along, and she's basically saying, "Well, when am I going to see your experiment, Victor?" And he says, "In due time, my dear, in due time."
Yeah, she was pretty much bought into his whole, a storyline about feeding her the BS, right? Because she was the little girl at the start of the film, I'm guessing, right?
Yes.
Yes. Oh,
And
this
here's where
is
they have
fun.
a
That
party.
was that was a little bit of good comedy relief there with the old geezer at the punch bowl. I like that scene.
Right. So this is supposed to be the wedding rehearsal, and this guy here is drinking, I think, I'm guessing, of spiked punch.
He's
And
having a good time.
right, he's rehearsing, and she says, "Well, the ceremony's not until tomorrow." And he says, "Well, you always need plenty of practice," or something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. And I'm thinking, oh, dude, your wife seems like a bit of a pain in the butt, to be honest. But I guess she's just trying to, keep her husband online, reasonable.
Apparently, he gets a little over too tipsy, I'm guessing.
That was a nice little break of comedy relief, though. Because there's not a whole hell of a lot of humor in this film, I gotta say.
Exactly. At this point, Paul had left for an extended period of time, and he came back because she's welcoming him back. That's why she's got the smile on her face and all this stuff.
Mm.
Originally, he had threatened not to return after he saw that Victor Frankenstein had redug up the body. That's when he had left and said, "I'm not returning." But if he is coming back for the wedding. And he goes down to visit Frankenstein. And he sees that he still has the creature there chained up. And as you can see here, this is from the surgery because of the gunshot to the eye.
Yeah.
And Professor Frankenstein, or Baron Frankenstein, even blames Paul, saying, "Well, it's your fault because you shot him in the head."
Yeah, right. Blame the guy. Don't take responsibility for any of your actions for like the last year or whatever, right? It's like, yeah, right. Sure, Victor. That's real. That's the problem with Victor. He never takes responsibility for his mistakes.
Nope. He's just got the obsession of just keep moving on and on.
He's blind. He's blind to what he's doing. He really is.
Now I should go to the authorities and have them destroy that creature. So yeah, I don't think you want to tell Frankenstein that. Now here, this is what I mentioned earlier. So he tells them this is the fiance, and he tells her it's grave danger. He's doing some crazy stuff, but he will not tell her exactly what he's doing. And he should tell her and say, "Well, he's got dead bodies down there. He's stitching them together. He's bringing a man back to life." I mean, all that stuff, but he won't tell her.
Yeah, it was definitely 1957, right? Because I think that's the only reason he wouldn't tell a woman is because of the time this film was made.
Yes. If you think about it, if you really cared about her, you would tell her what's going on,
Oh hell yeah, he would
and take
actually.
her with you, right? Leave and take her with you.
If he actually cared, he would have waited till Victor was, had gone away to rob another grave or something, and then taken her up to the lab and showing her all the horror. Is
Yep.
probably what he should have done.
He can't get into the lab unless Frankenstein lets him in, because they've established that he has to knock on the door, and Professor Frankenstein has to let him in. But
Okay,
normally
so
Frankenstein leaves that door locked.
when Frankenstein leaves the lab, though, does he have a lock that he can lock on both sides of the door? I'm guessing then.
Yeah, yeah. They show him with the key. He locks it
Oh,
from the
okay,
outside.
okay, good point.
And this is her opportunity to go around and start snooping, just like the maid was doing earlier.
Oh yeah.
And we get to struggle here because Paul's going to the authorities, and of course, Professor Frankenstein does not want him to. Or sorry, Baron. And then they hear a scream. I guess they don't necessarily hear the scream, but she's going to be screaming here pretty soon because, of course, she's going to stumble into the creature. I love how they weren't afraid to show a lot of cleavage in these movies.
Yeah, I
And by the
agree.
way, this is another movie that was originally rated X.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. It was right on the movie poster.
Wow. Was it for the cleavage or the corpse?
It was, well, two reasons. It was a little more bloodier and violent and graphic than most movies at the time, but it was also to
Hmm.
lure audiences into the theater.
Oh, that's a good marketing plan, actually. Yeah,
It was very effective.
you think maybe it was the headshot when Paul shoots Frankenstein's monster in the head and all that blood gushes out of Christopher Lee's face. Like that was pretty. That was pretty graphic, I gotta say.
It was definitely more graphic than the American-made movies at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I actually really thought, wow, this is awesome. Like, yeah, he's really bleeding there. And good old Victor, he has a two-shot gun and he can't aim nothing worth shit. First he shoots his wife and then he misses the monster. Way to
Of
go there,
course.
Victor.
And then he tosses the lamp at him.
This is cool. Very cool.
And then into the vat of acid.
Right into the acid bath. Yes, that was awesome. What an ending to the creature.
And now we cut to the wraparound sequence of him in prison, of course, talking to the vicar or the priest. And he's basically telling the priest, you've got to believe me, you got to believe me. And the priest does not believe him because he even says, he goes, I can tell you don't believe me.
Well, I'm
And
sure
then
the priest thinks he's just insane, right? Is what I'm guessing.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, yeah, because it's like no one's going to believe him that he brought someone back to life.
Mm.
So, and here's where it's announced that he has a visitor, and it's Paul. And Paul here is with his fiance.
Oh, so he's going to marry Victor's ex-wife.
I don't know if they've established if he's going to marry her, but he brings her along, and she waits out in the waiting room. So I guess even if she, being a woman, I guess she's not allowed down there to see the accused. I don't know why, or she doesn't want to. I don't know.
It was just nice to see that she was alive and well after Victor accidentally shot her in the previous sequence, right? So
yes. So now that Victor Frankenstein sees that Paul's there, he's all excited and happy. He says, "Tell the priest that I'm not lying. Tell him that I created a man." But unfortunately, Paul denies it and says, "No, I don't know what you're talking about."
What dick?
Fine. Oh, I think Paul's awesome in this scene. I mean, let's face it. Victor treated Paul like shit through the whole movie. He basically connived, lied, stole body parts, murdered people, murdered his own child, unborn child. I mean, I got zero sympathy for old Victor here at the end of the movie. And I think Paul's got every right to just, ghost him and say, this guy, I don't know what he's talking about. I love this scene.
I think Paul is thinking that he's getting his fitting end. Yeah. Just what he deserves.
Exactly. And also, don't forget, Paul, if he had actually told the priest it was all true, he could have been in trouble for being an accomplice to this horror show, right? So
True, right.
yeah, I think Paul did exactly what he should have done. I like Paul. Actually, Paul was my favorite character in the damn movie, I gotta say.
And of course, out of anger, Baron Frankenstein attacks Paul. And with that, the guards run in and stop him, which makes him look even more crazier.
Oh, exactly. Well, I think he is basically insane at this point, even though he tries to put on, airs and have manners and apologize to people. But it's like he's basically over the top. Like he's basically done as a rational human being.
Yeah, he's the typical mad scientist, I guess.
Good point. Oh man.
And here's where Paul tells her that he's totally mad at this point,
Mm.
and there's nothing we can do about it.
I love this last sequence. This is awesome.
And here's where he's being actually led to his death. So it's going to be death by guillotine.
I thought that was great. I was expecting like hanging or something because earlier in the film he got that criminal that had been hanged earlier in the film, right?
Yep.
But when we see the guillotine, getting set up and they're raising the blade up for another execution, I thought that is excellent, excellent, excellent.
Right, this scene here.
I love it.
So, and that's what's excellent about it. So they lead us to believe that he is going to be executed by guillotine. And what's fascinating is, basically, I know it's like a whole month and 2 months, but next month, in another 4 weeks, we're going to do the next Dracula movie in sequence. And then after that, the next month, let's see, that'll be February. And then in March, we're going to cover the next Frankenstein movie right after this one. And what's great is it actually takes place right from where this one leaves off.
Really?
Yes. So we're going to find out how he avoids the guillotine.
Oh.
In order for them to make a sequel.
Sneaky bugger, eh? Jeez.
Right. Because this movie was so successful, of course. They didn't realize how successful it was going to be. And then it was. And they just said, well, we need a sequel then.
So it's like 50s morality said that the evil criminal mastermind scientist guy must die on the guillotine. And then when the dollars rolled in, it was like, well, let's forget about morality. Let's just do a sequel.
Yes, right. But there's just too much money to be had. We can't give up on it that easily.
That sounds like modern films a lot, actually, Pop, come to think of it.
It is. Yeah, that's how Star Wars came about and a lot of other movies. And of course, a Hammer production.
Yes, I love it. Love it. Love it. I'm just going to pop out for a minute. Be right back, guys.
Sounds good. All right. And that was the Curse of Frankenstein. And we got through that pretty quick, I would say. Hopefully we did okay. How are we doing on the chat there, guys?
Oh, we got a couple here. Scurvy here says, a bit of a trope in movies and TV. I'm going to expose you to the shocker that person doesn't meet a good end.
Well, right, exactly. Of course.
Can you read this, Pop? I'm a little bit.
I've got a 3-hour Edge of Time says I've got a 3-hour documentary in my watch later about Frankenstein and the Illuminati. My question is, Frankenstein was written in the 1800s by Mary Shelley. Was the Illuminati, did they exist back then? Ripe strawberries in winter, a good start to 2024. Oh, that sounds yummy. Strawberry shortcake. I wish I had that for dessert tonight. Okay, let me see here. And Lemon Pie says Team Guillotine. Yeah, that's pretty much what happens. Or what happened to him, of course. So as a reminder, everybody, there is a poll in the chat. Please, if you'd like, consider voting and let us know what you think about your grade for this movie or what you thought about our coverage, if our coverage was satisfactory. Did you like the new format of us going through this a little quicker tonight? I know, like I said earlier, sometimes these streams can be 3 or 4 hours, but we got through it so far in less than about an hour and a half. And vote in the poll, and then I'll share the results of that poll here. And first, let me get the thoughts and opinions of my fellow panel members. Gorilla, are you there?
Yeah.
All right, Gorilla. So, what would you grade this movie? Tell us, what do you think?
I give it a B plus. I mean, it had some good color. It's a good story there, though they did change quite a bit from the book there, but I can forgive it because they actually did a decent job on it.
But Gorilla, you have not seen the Universal original one, right? From 1933?
No.
Okay, gotcha. Is there anything you'd like to share about your channel, Gorilla?
Let's see. Wednesday we'll have Justified. Friday will be the Cradle. We'll be reviewing the Waltons episode, The Cradle. Saturday we're reviewing Enemy Mine, and then on Sunday we are watching Mad Max.
Excellent. They sound like a great. I'm jealous. Mad Max is a great movie, and I'm jealous that I'm not having it on my stream.
Yeah, I'm gonna try I'm trying some new stuff with shorts there, but it might be a little bit here because I've just been in a lot of pain the last couple of days. So,
well, yeah, take it easy and get better. Sorry to hear that. I know that New Year's was a little rough for you.
Yeah. All right, I'm going back to muting.
Okay, Nemesis of Eden, what say you? Can you tell us what you thought about this movie and tell us about your channel?
Yeah, I thought this was a solid movie. It presents a lot of different moral questions to light. It starts off with what's right, what's wrong. Initially, Paul was thinking that because they can slow down the heart and basically isolate the rest of the body or the brain and the rest of the body, this could be used for science and surgery, and it doesn't. There's a scene that we skipped over with the professor where he's talking about how blindly ignorant we are to the darkness that we as scientists put forth, and how someone in the future is going to take that with no knowledge or forethought and twist it. And that was a beautiful message, I think. All in all, the acting was really good. Peter Cushing did great. Christopher Lee, his physical acting was fantastic as the creature. The practical effects were fantastic. The set design was really good. The music was really good. All in all, solid. I'm teetering on like an A-, B+.
Cool.
It was really good. I definitely recommend it to people to watch at least once. It's interesting to see Dr. Frankenstein go from this bright young little boy to this basically apathetic monster who uses his Justine, the maid, who uses Paul, who uses the bodies, who basically doesn't care and has no moral issues about it. And to watch his descent into becoming a terrible person while being blindly ignorant to it as well.
Yes, I agree. And I forgot to mention, but I should have mentioned there at the very end when he was in his cell pleading with Paul. That's what I was talking about, where the ages had reversed. He looked so much older than Paul. I remember Paul supposedly raised him from a little boy. So I thought it was kind of odd. I know that's something we're not supposed to notice with the casting, but I would be willing to bet that Peter Cushing was probably older than the actor that played Paul.
Yeah, oh, for sure. You could definitely tell that, unfortunately. But I mean, it was noticeable, but at the same time, it wasn't that bad for me. I like PvP was saying, I like Paul as a character. He stuck around, even though he didn't agree with what Victor had turned into. It's basically like a surrogate son. You can't just abandon him. And at the same time, he was falling in love with, oh my God,
the fiance. I feel bad. I remember her name as well, right?
I know I want to call her Maria, but I don't think that's it. But it's, yeah. So, and he's staying there for her. And that's basically it.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. Thank you.
Elizabeth? Oh, cool. I think he
Yeah.
stayed
So
there
all
because he was afraid for Elizabeth's safety. Nemesis was a big part of it, right? It wasn't just love; it was just like fearing for her life because he told her
Yeah, I
many
think that was
times,
part of
"You're
it
not
too, right?
safe," right?
Yeah, I think
yeah,
that was part of it too.
totally. So my channel, it comes to I've been doing a lot of gaming, a lot of shorts. Definitely check it out if you're into Yu-Gi-Oh, fighting games like Skullgirls, um, or if you're into shorts, which I am putting more and more out. Yeah, definitely sub and like to my videos as well as Pop, Gorilla, and PvP. And thank you so much to the chat and the people watching this in the future for making it this far. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Nemesis. I appreciate you being here and helping us out.
Always a
And
pleasure, Pop.
Pleasant Valley Picker CA, what say you? What would you say about this movie? And tell us about your channel.
Well, I decided to give it an A minus because I thought it was a really solid, really enjoyable, really good film. I loved Peter Cushing's performance as Victor Frankenstein. I thought was very excellent. He went from being, I think, in the early scenes when he was a teenager, I'd place him maybe around 14, 15 years old, like he was pretty young. And he seemed like quite a nice, innocent young lad at that point, right? Uh, and then, of course, by the time he becomes an adult and gets, deep into his, experiments to rejuvenate life. Like, I love the early scene with the dog, right? When they bring the dog, when him and Paul bring the doggy back to life. And I thought, well, this is cool. Like, that could be, and Paul says, you must go to the scientific, get together. I can't remember the word, the formal word, but you must
Right.
go next month and give your findings to the scientific community and present it in a paper. We could have the paper ready by then. And of course, Victor's going, "Oh no, this is too important. We'll have to like wait till next year. We have other things we need to prove first." And I'm thinking, okay, Paul, you made a good suggestion because if they'd done that and said we brought a dog back to life, without any crazy, putting body parts together and all that crazy stuff, the scientific community would have gone like, wow, we could like bring people back to life. Like he could have been like a major hero, right? If he just, put out the paper and gone with it. But it's like,
Or they could have questioned the moral, like now with the modern days. Fast forward to now with the clone. It was the same thing when we said we cloned a sheep, Dolly the sheep. They immediately came out with the moral implications of what if they do humans, and they supposedly were supposed to outlaw cloning humans.
I'm
So
just
maybe
thinking,
he was afraid of that happening.
well, I just think it should have gone and presented his facts because I'm sure some of the scientists probably would, some would have obviously probably been against him and some probably would have sided with him and said, hey, this is promising research. Like, I mean, who wouldn't want to, if some person, if your relative died from some illness when they were like 25, I think a lot of people would say if you can rejuvenate them, bring them back to life as they were, with their full mental capabilities, it's like I think some people would actually go, yeah, go for it, right? So I
Yeah.
found that interesting. Uh,
Well, I think also maybe possibly it was part of the character of Victor Frankenstein. Is that he probably saw that as small beans. It's like, oh, I don't need to show this to them. This is not my goal. This was just a stepping stone for him.
exactly. He wanted to have something bigger and better, and you know, to prove right to the scientific community, which is why he held back. Is what I'm thinking. I that's a good point, Bob. Um, and geez, I get a little sidetracked. Paul was a great character. I really thought he was, you know, I personally thought Paul was the best character in the film, even though I know it's Peter Cushing's starring role, and he was great in it. Don't get me wrong, but I really like Paul's character, the way they wrote him, because they wrote him like very intelligent. Like they didn't, he wasn't like just some dumb second banana in the background just for the sake of having the guy there. Like he had a lot of great dialogue, a lot of good scenes, and he was a pretty damn good actor. I thought he did a good job in the scenes he was in. Uh, and then as the story progresses, of course, we get all the stuff with him making having the romance with the maid, and he's like talk about a scoundrel, right? He's promising like for some time that, oh yeah, I'm going to marry you for sure. Like, don't worry about that. Like, we're having, hot passion, but don't worry about it. I won't forget you. You'll be my lady one day. Like, I'll legitimize our relationship with a marriage. And it's like, so he's totally lying to her through the teeth at that point. And,
Right.
you know, then you got Elizabeth that comes back, she was the young girl at the beginning, and they were betrothed, I guess, by her mother many years before. So she comes back expecting, like, oh, Victor's such a great guy, because of course her mother's filled her head full of how awesome Victor is as a person. So she's, totally not questioning anything, and she's expecting to be the wife in the not too distant future. And then, of course, as it progresses, we get Victor doing all the body part stuff and all the stuff with reanimating corpses. And then, of course, when Christopher Lee comes in and we see how grotesque uh, Victor's creation is, it is monstrous, literally. This creature might be reanimated, but it's definitely not living in any sense of the word we would think as living, right? So that's when it totally, the film totally takes off. And then, of course, when he kills the maid, well, first when he kills the professor, and then when he kills the maid and his unborn child, it's like I totally hated him at that point, because obviously he's an evil psychopath and doesn't care about anything except his research. Um, and yeah, I don't want to go on. I mean, I guess I'm retelling the film. Shit. Sorry about that. But I
That's
just thought it's
okay.
a great film, great film. Um, and as I said, I give it an A minus. And yeah, Peter Cushing obviously was a star. Gave his usual excellent performance. The fellow playing Paul was excellent. Christopher Lee didn't have, well, obviously he had no dialogue, so it was all physical acting, and I thought he did an excellent job of that. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. It's a very good film, A minus. And as far as my channel goes, I just put up a stream. I guess it was yesterday, probably, of power pop bands from the late '70s and early '80s. I just made it public, so if anybody wants to check that out, that would be cool.
Very cool. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome, Pop. You're very welcome.
And I'm going to give the movie an A as well. I loved it. I mean, the history of it, and like I mentioned earlier, that it brought horror back to the forefront, and it made Hammer Studios what it was, and it's really successful. Like I mentioned in earlier streams, that Hammer made a slew of successful movies through the 19 up to the 70s. They even had a TV show in the 80s, Hammer House of Horror. And I miss them now. I wish they were still around making good stuff. Unfortunately they produced a really bad movie that I won't go into detail describing because it's god awful, and let's just say that it's ultra woke. So Hammer is nothing but a shell of what it used to be. But the fact that this was the first actual on-screen team up of Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, I thought was magnificent. I thought they were naturals working together. And the fact that knowing off screen, they also became very good friends until Peter Cushing's death, I think is magnificent. I love the fact that it was edgy for its time. It was very daring. There was more blood, more gore, more violence than what we were used to in the American made movies. Oh, and I wanted to mention too that this movie was so successful that Universal finally agreed and said, "No, you're right. You can do a good movie." And then Universal Pictures finally loosened up on the copyright, and they let Hammer. In the future movies, we're going to see a little more influences from the Universal movies because they weren't worried about being sued by Universal. So Universal was actually pleased with the product. And instead of thinking it was going to ruin the name, they actually figured, well, Hammer's doing a good job with it. And they later gave them a little more leverage on what they could do with the characters. So I like that as well. So yeah, I give it an A. As far as my channel is concerned, we probably will not be doing Gilligan's Island tomorrow, but I should be having a Rumblies from the Lab on Saturday. And then Monday we'll be back with Lost in Space season 2. And then next Tuesday for our horror sci-fi stream, I'll be posting I think the next movie, if I remember right, is supposed to be a science fiction movie. Is that right, guys? Do you remember in order? I have to look it up. Like I said, I need to write this down, but I know everybody voted on 4 topics. One of them was Hammer, and one of them was science fiction movies. I think one of them was classics, maybe.
I'm just thinking, didn't when did we watch the Bug movie, the Starship Troopers? That was how many weeks ago? Because that was definitely sci-fi
2.
horror.
Yeah, that was sci-fi horror, and I think that was 2 weeks ago. Last week was Total Recall, and I think it was week before that was Starship Troopers.
So I'm thinking maybe it's not sci-fi next week, because it seems like we watched sci-fi recently. So
You think maybe it's classic horror?
could be. Maybe
Oh,
go
what I'll
for
do is-
classic.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll look through I'll look through the schedule and see what we've been showing.
Or is there one where we get to vote on something too? Like that could be fun.
That's one of them too. I think that's it, week after next.
Because I don't think I've voted on anything in a while now. So
Yeah, we voted on last month. I put 4 titles up there, and I'm trying to remember. I remember one of them was Silent Running, and that was not one of the ones that was voted. That's the one I wanted. But so they voted. I can't remember what we voted for, but it was not Silent Running. I remember that. But we did have a voting.
It was The Fly.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that's right. The Fly.
Yeah, Cronenberg. Yeah.
Yes,
that was
thank
good.
you. Yes, thank you, Nemesis.
That's a while ago.
You're
yeah,
welcome.
that is a while ago.
Yeah, it was still a good choice though. Maybe that is what's
great.
next. Maybe that is what's next. Maybe next is the vote. So maybe we can come up with some titles there that I'll let you guys choose from. And that'll be next Tuesday, obviously. And then we will return with Gilligan's Island. I believe Gorilla. Are we on the last 2 episodes of season 2, or did we finish season 2? I think we have 2 more episodes left, right? Gorilla may have stepped away from the mic.
He's muted.
But as a reminder, everybody, I'm going to share the results from the poll in the chat. And so let's see what we got. If you voted, I do appreciate that. And thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can't remember, Pop.
I did vote.
I know. I need to look it up. So, yeah, it's understandable, Gorilla. Okay, so let me do this. I want to make sure I almost forgot the chat, and I don't want the poll, and I don't want to do that. Okay, so let me see. Share screen here. Talking to myself, of course. There we go. All right. It looks like we had 8 votes. And once again, thank you, everybody, for voting and taking the time to do that. What grade would you give The Curse of Frankenstein? And that looks like 62% gave it an A+ to an A-. 37% gave it B+ to B-. And C through F was 0, which is good. It sounds like everybody generally enjoyed it. I'm glad to hear that. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's overall very positive ratings, I would say, Pop.
I would say so too. That's good. Because this is, and by the way, everybody in the chat, I appreciate it because this is letting us know if you like this new format that we've been trying. So if you guys continue, you like the way we've been doing this with like a Hammer movie once a month and sci-fi once a month and voting once a month or whatever. If you guys like that, then we'll continue this way. So yeah, thank you so much for voting tonight and participating with us. And if you haven't done so, yeah, please consider hitting maybe the like button on your way out. And if you haven't subbed to my channel, maybe consider that. If you're watching this on the rerun, I hope you enjoyed it. There is a link in my community. If you have not seen this movie, there is a link in my community tab where you can watch it for free. And I hope I didn't spoil it for you by covering it tonight. I'm hoping most of you have seen it by now. But my main intention is not to spoil it, but maybe to entice you into watching it if you had, especially for those people who are not familiar with Hammer horror. The whole idea is to introduce you to something new, because this is still, in my opinion, miles above the horrible Blumhouse horror movies that they're making these days. That's another thing, too, that I forgot to mention when I reviewed this, is one thing that I really, really appreciate about these movies is the dialogue and the way they speak. They actually speak like people did back in the 1800s. So we don't get these horror movies now. What they'll do now is when they do a period piece or a movie that's supposed to take place in the 1800s, they talk like they're right out of UCLA, like literally, and all that kind of crap. And that's why I really don't like a lot of modern TV shows and movies. They don't bother trying to speak like they did back in the day, which I think is a travesty. That's one of the things that kind of bothered me too with the Orville. Is, I mean, this is supposed to be 300 years in the future, but they all were talking like they were coming out of modern day LA, and it was really getting on my nerves, very grating. But I want to thank you, and especially everybody in the chat. Thank you for spending time with us. It was so good to see you guys again. And most of all of you guys on the panel there, thank you for helping me out. Gorilla, thank you for helping with the chat. And I hope you get better soon, sir. Maybe make some chicken soup. Edge of Time says, I saw a retro commercial for The Homecoming, a Walton special, and thought of Gorilla. Yeah, that's the original movie with the Patricia Neal. Patricia Neal as Mrs. Walton. I can't remember who played the father. Gorilla, didn't you show that The Homecoming before you started the series?
That was our first one.
Do you remember who played the father in the movie?
Some Irish guy.
Some Irish guy. Okay. Well, that's more than I remembered. I remembered Patricia Neal.
I'm just assuming he's Irish because of his red hair. Or wait, that'd be Scottish, wouldn't it?
I think red hair. I know we're not supposed to be stereotyping, but I think red is supposed to go with Irish. My mother was Irish and she had red hair, so it's very likely. Edge of Time says Frankenstein really lost his head over it. Yes, unfortunately he did. And Edge of Time says, I always wonder why all the movie Romans have English accents. Well, because one thing that they used to always do is, even for the Romans, right, and a lot of movies where they had English accents, is because most British people go to actual drama school and they actually have to take lessons in Shakespeare. A lot of them have experience on the stage and doing plays. They have a vast amount of experience, including Shakespeare, which is I think it should be a requirement for every actor. But then with the American movies, we don't get the acting quality that we do with the British actors. With the Americans, like I mentioned before, they're usually hired because they look good. They saw their headshot on a photograph in a book, and they say, "Oh, that person looks good," but they don't do screen tests. They don't actually, find out if the person is good at projecting, or the way they, like I talked about the Orville, they don't bother finding out if they sound like the character, if they speak phonetically or correctly, especially when they're doing a period piece. They don't bother doing that, which is really sad. But that's the reason why, even like Spider-Man and Henry Cavill, who played Superman, those are both British. Tom Holland and the guy that played Henry Cavill, British, because they're better actors. So what they do is they hire the British people for an American movie and then tell them to speak like an American, rather than hire an American for the movie because they know they can't get a good actor. But that just shows the sad state of Hollywood. Hollywood knows it, but they don't want to admit it. But that's a different subject and a different topic for a different day. Is there anything any of you would like to add before I close this up?
Nope.
No.
I guess not.
Nope, nothing comes to mind, actually, Pop.
All right. Then once again, thank you, everybody in the chat. And so everybody on the panel, thank you for helping me out tonight, guys. I really do appreciate it. And I think, in my opinion, it went pretty well. I mean, less than 3 hours, 2 hours, 7, 8, 9.
Less than 2 hours.
Less than 2 hours.
Yeah, this was a short one tonight.
Yeah, so I hope that went well for everybody. And hopefully we didn't bore you guys to tears, which is always a good thing. So if you work tomorrow, please drive safe, take care of yourself, and stay warm. And we will see you all. If I don't see you sooner, I will see you on other streams or on Saturday's Rumblings from the Lab. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.
Night.